Hello viewers, I am Deepti. Today I am going to make section B from part 2 for ICSE Class 10 History Civics paper, Specimen paper given by the Council for the year 2023-24. As in my previous video, I have already made part 1 as well as section A from part 2. In section B, we have 5 questions from history portion, and out of these 5 questions, the student has to attempt only 3 questions. So question number 6. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 was a major uprising against the rule of the British East India Company, which functioned as a sovereign power on behalf of the British Crown. With reference to this, answer the following questions. Part 1. Mention any 3 administrative changes made in India as a consequence of the revolt. So the administrative changes made in India as a consequence of the revolt were: end of company's rule. The revolt ended the East India Company's rule in India, and the Indian Empire came under the direct control of the British Crown. Queen Victoria became the Empress of India. Second heading, position of Secretary of State. The Act of 1858 abolished the Company's Board of Control and Court of Directors. All their powers were transferred to a cabinet minister known as Secretary of State. He was to be advised by a council consisting of 15 members. Third point, position of Governor General. The designation of the Governor General was changed. He was designated as the Viceroy while representing the British government in England. It was his duty to run the Indian administration on behalf of the Crown. He was under the control of the Secretary of State for India. Fourth point, appointments to the civil service. It was decided that appointments to the civil service were to be made by open competition under rules made by the Secretary of State in Council. These are 4 points and the question is of 3 marks. So you need to write only 3 points out of these 4. I am giving 1 extra point to you. In second part, how did the failure of this revolt impact the Mughals and the Peshwas? With the death of Bahadur Shah II, who was deported to Yangon, the Mughal dynasty came to an end. Nana Sahib, the last Peshwa, had taken an active part in the uprising and had fled to Nepal after the failure of the revolt. So the office of Peshwa also came to an end. Thus ended the 2 most formidable foes of the British, that means the Marathas and the Mughals. This part again is of 3 marks. Third part, mention any 4 changes made in army after the revolt. This is of 4 marks. The Indian army was reorganized after the revolt in 1858 to prevent the recurrence of another uprising in the following manner. A Royal Indian Army was created by merging the armies of the company and the crown together under a commander-in-chief. Second, the ratio of the Europeans and Indians in the army was fixed as 1:2 in Bengal and 2:5 in Bombay and Madras. Third, all officials in the army were to be only Europeans. Fourth, only European troops were to be stationed at strategic points or places. Next point, Indians in the army were not to be placed on ranks higher than that of a Subedar. Next, caste, creed and color of the recruits would be taken into consideration at the time of their recruitment. Next, regiments in the army were to be organized on the basis of religion or caste. Next, Indian soldiers were excluded from the artillery and arsenals. These are 8 points for 4 marker question. मैंने बहुत छोटे-छोटे points दिए हैं आपको. Question number 7. Nationalism refers to the feeling of oneness that emerges when people consider themselves as one nation. With reference to the growth of nationalism, answer the following. Part 1. Name the founder of Indian National Congress. Mention any 2 of its objectives. So in 1884, A.O. Hume, in consultation with the Indian leaders, laid the foundation of Indian National Union. The meeting of the Union was held in Mumbai under the presidentship of W.C. Banerjee or Umesh Chandra Banerjee and attended by 72 delegates. On the suggestion of Dadabhai Naoroji, the name of the union was changed to Indian National Congress on December 28, 1885. Next, mention any two of its objectives. The declared objectives of Indian National Congress were to promote friendly relations between nationalist political workers from different parts of the country. Second, to develop and consolidate the feelings of national unity, irrespective of caste, religion, or province. Third, to promulgate popular demands and present them before the government. And next is to train and organize public opinion in the country. You can write any 2 points from these 4 points. Second point, how does the press contribute towards the growth of nationalism? Large number of newspapers were started in the later half of 19th century. Some prominent newspapers were Amrit Bazar Patrika, the Bengali, the Tribune, the Pioneer, the Times of India, the Hindu, and the Statesman. They played a significant role in developing a strong national sentiment among the Indians in the following manner. It was through the press that the message of patriotism and modern liberal ideas of liberty, freedom, equality, home rule, and independence spread among the people. Second, it helped in changing the thinking of people. They came to know about democracy, socialism, etc. The Indian press reflected the public opinion of the country. It highlighted the unjust economic policies of the British government and exposed the true nature of Indian rule in India. Last point, it made Indians aware of what was happening in the world. This awareness helped them to understand that political and social development of the outside world and shaped their own policies and program accordingly. Again, I am emphasizing this point that I am giving you 4 points. You need to write any 3 points out of these 4 given points. Third point, mention any 4 repressive policies of Lord Lytton. Lord Lytton was the Viceroy of India from 1876 to 1880, and his policies acted as a catalyst for the growth of nationalist movement in India. These included the following. First point, he organized a Grand Delhi Darbar in 1877 to proclaim Queen Victoria as the Empress of India. Lakhs of rupees were spent, but nothing was done for Indians who were in the grip of famine at that time. He introduced the Vernacular Press Act in 1878, which forbade vernacular papers to publish any material that might excite feelings of dissatisfaction against the British government. Next, he introduced Indian Arms Act in 1878, which made it a criminal offence for Indians to carry arms without license. This act was not applicable to the British. During his tenure, the maximum age limit for Indian Civil Services examination was reduced from 21 to 19 years, thus making it difficult for the Indians to compete for it. So, conclusion. These acts provoked a great storm of opposition in the country and led to the formation of various political organizations to carry out anti-British propaganda. In question number 8, read the excerpt given below and answer the questions that follow. The government had generated worldwide publicity and British were looking for a way to end it. Gandhiji was released from custody in January 1931. In history, dates are always very important. आपको prominent सारी dates याद रखनी है. उन्हीं dates के accordingly आप एक हिस्ट्री को मूवी की तरह देखेंगे तो आपको अपने आप एक के कॉजेज दूसरे के कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज समझ आते जाएंगे. जहां जनवरी 1931 की बात आ रही है तो आप याद कीजिए इंडियन हिस्ट्री में उस समय क्या हो रहा था, सिविल डिसोबीडियंस मूवमेंट. तो यहां अभी गांधी जी को जेल से छोड़ा गया है फ्रॉम कस्टडी इन जनवरी 1931 and the two men began negotiating the terms of the pact. कौन सा pact? For many conservatives in England, the meetings and talk seemed unacceptable. They thought it was inappropriate for the Viceroy, who was the representative of the British monarch, to receive their arch enemy. Gandhiji was authorized by the then President of the Congress, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, to negotiate with the Viceroy. He advised the nation to wait, watch, pray and hope for the better prospect for India. He was full of admiration for the people, their heroic struggle and hard suffering. ये न्यूज़पेपर द हिंदू से लिया गया है आर्टिकल. फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज हु वॉज द वाइसरॉय हु नेगोशिएटेड विद गांधी जी. तो हमें ये पता होना चाहिए कि उस समय कौन से वाइसरॉय यहाँ अपॉइंटेड थे. तो लॉर्ड इरविन वॉज द वाइसरॉय इन जनवरी 1931. तो लॉर्ड इरविन वॉज द वाइसरॉय हु नेगोशिएटेड विद गांधी जी इन 1931. नेम टू कॉजेज ऑफ द मूवमेंट बीइंग डिस्कस्ड अबव. कौन सा मूवमेंट है? The movement being discussed here is civil disobedience movement and the causes which led to the movement were. Simon Commission heading है to satisfy the people. Simon Commission with all its member being Britishers was formulated to investigate the need for further constitutional reforms. This was seen as a deliberate insult to the self-respect to the Indians. So the commission was not welcomed. The day when it arrived in India, that is on 3rd February, was observed as a day of strikes and hostile demonstrations. It had a great impact on the Indian political life. The government used brutal suppression and Lala Lajpat Rai was beaten up mercilessly and he lost his life. This is our first point, first cause. Second, Lahore Session and Declaration of Purn Swaraj. The failure of the British government to give dominion status to India and several other developments in 1929 hardened the Congress attitude. So at its Lahore session, presided over by Jawaharlal Nehru, the Congress passed resolution of Purn Swaraj and took steps to launch a program of civil disobedience. Next is Gandhiji's 11 demands. On 30th January 1930, Mahatma Gandhi served on the British government a 11-point ultimatum. After waiting in vain for the government's response, Gandhiji started the movement with his famous Dandi March as his demands were declared to be unrealistic by the Viceroy. These are different causes. You have to write only 2 causes for this movement. Next part, mention any 3 impacts of this movement. This movement did not succeed immediately in winning freedom, but the importance of the movement can be summed up as follows. First is political awakening. The movement caused a tide of patriotic fervor in the country. People became fully aware of their responsibilities and the movement succeeded in creating political awakening among the masses. तो ये mass movement बन गया था. Next is social impact. The movement had a healthy impact upon the social conditions. A large number of social groups like merchants and shopkeepers, peasants, tribals and workers in different parts of the country were mobilized for the Indian national movement. The Harijan Sevak Sangh was established which helped the untouchables to obtain the basic rights. The depressed class were given entry into temple and access to wealth as well. Next is constitutional reforms. The government was convinced that bold constitutional reforms were essential. So they introduced the Government of India Act 1935, the principle of federation and the principle of provincial autonomy. Next is role of elections. The movement revived the will to fight the elections. In 1937, the Congress achieved positive results in the election to the Central Legislative Assembly and Provincial Legislative Assemblies. Any 3 impacts you need to write in this part. As a consequence of this meeting, a pact was signed. Mention any 4 conditions that the Congress and the British government agreed to according to this pact. The government tried to control the progress of civil disobedience movement by adopting the policy of repression. The force failed to extinguish the spirit of revolt. So the government signed an agreement in 1931 known as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The government agreed to, first point, withdraw all ordinances and end prosecutions. Release all political prisoners except those guilty of violence. Permit peaceful picketing of liquor and foreign clothes shops. Restore the confiscated properties of the satyagrahis. Permit the free collection or manufacture of salt by persons near the sea coast. The Congress in turn consented to the following: to suspend the civil disobedience movement, to participate in the second round table conference, and third, not to press for investigation into police excesses. Now coming to contemporary world, question 9. Look at the picture given and answer the following questions. Identify the leader in the above picture. Mention any two of his ideologies. The leader in the above picture is Adolf Hitler. Ideologies of Adolf Hitler were: the people exist for the state rather than the state for the people. Hitler believed in a totalitarian state. The state had the right to interfere in all aspects of the life of people. To uphold intensely nationalistic, anti-communist, anti-democratic, one party and one leader rule. Second part, mention any three causes for his rise to power. The three causes for his rise to power were: absence of strong opposition. The rise of the Nazi Party in Germany was facilitated by the absence of any strong opposition party. As a result, the Nazi Party did not encounter any effective resistance and its popularity achieved great heights. Next is charismatic personality of Hitler. He had all the qualities like shrewd politician and a brave soldier required for a popular leader. He knew the art of molding public opinion in his favor. He was a gifted orator who captivated the Germans by his emotional speeches. He assured the Germans that if they would abide by the Nazi ideology, their economic misery would come to an end. Next heading is failure of coalition government. In the elections of 1932, he failed to get a majority in the Reichstag. A coalition government could not continue for long. President Hindenburg then offered chancellorship to Hitler, who formed his first Nazi government. General elections were ordered, but Nazi Party could not win a majority. Then Hitler assumed dictatorial powers. After President Hindenburg's death, Hitler became president and chancellor and adopted the resignation of Führer, the leader. He abolished the constitution and made himself the dictator of Germany. Next part. What was the immediate cause of the Second World War? Mention any three reasons given by this leader to justify his action. The first immediate cause. By the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was divided into two parts, and Port of Danzig was also given to Poland. Germany wanted to regain her lost territories. Germany signed a non-aggression pact with Russia, and Poland was accused of committing atrocities against Germans living there. On the 1st of September 1939, Poland was attacked by Germany and the German armies marched into Poland. France and Britain gave an ultimatum to Germany. Germany attacked France, and on 3rd September Britain and France declared war on Germany. Thus Germany's aggression on Poland marked the beginning of Second World War. Now three reasons given by Hitler to justify his actions were: first is humiliating Treaty of Versailles. Germans looked down upon the Weimar Republic, which had signed such a disgraceful treaty, according to them. The terms of this treaty were greatly resented by Germans, who eagerly looked for an opportunity to avenge the same. These sentiments were exploited by Hitler. He openly encouraged the Germans to consign the Treaty of Versailles into the waste paper basket, to rebuild the Empire of Germany and recapture the lost colonies. Next heading is economic misery would come to an end. Germany had to suffer in agricultural production, colonies, foreign investments, trade contacts, etc. The number of unemployed people increased. The condition of farmers became miserable. Hitler promised the farmers that he would condone their debts, which had risen to $300 million. He won over the capitalists by assuring that industries would not be nationalized. Hitler assured the people that if they would abide Nazi ideology, their economic misery would come to an end and Germany would regain her lost glory. Next is anti-Semitic propaganda. The Nazis described the Jews as traitors. The Nazis impressed upon the Germans that their hardships was due to the exploitation of the Jews who dominated the German economy. Due to this, many Germans rallied behind the Nazi party. All this greatly appealed to the German people and they extended full support to Hitler and his Nazi party. So Hitler flouted the military clauses in the Treaty of Versailles and declared rearmament. In 1938. He annexed Austria and dismembered Czechoslovakia. In last question number 10, the United Nations Organization aims to maintain international peace. With reference to its organs and agencies, answer the following. Part 1. What is the composition of International Court of Justice? The International Court of Justice is composed of 15 judges elected to 9-year terms of office by the United Nations General Assembly and Security Council sitting independently of each other. It may not include more than one judge from any nationality. Elections are held every 3 years for 1/3 of the seats and retiring judges may be re-elected. The judges must possess the qualifications required in their respective countries for appointment to the highest judicial offices. The court elects its president and vice president for a 3-year term and appoint its registrar. Second part, mention any 3 functions of the Security Council. Following are the functions of the Security Council: to maintain international peace and security in accordance with the principles and purposes of the United Nations, to investigate any dispute or situation which might lead to international friction, to formulate plans for the establishment of a system to regulate armaments, to recommend the admission of new members. Give the full form of UNICEF. Mention any 3 of its functions. UNICEF is United Nations Children's Fund. United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund provides services in primary, healthcare, nutrition, basic education, sanitation, and women's development in developing countries. Its functions are as follows. UNICEF works for the protection of children in respect of their survival, health, and well-being. It provides funds for training personnel including health and sanitation workers, teachers, and nutritionists. Universal child immunization against preventable diseases was one of its leading goals. It assists governments to plan, develop, and extend community-based services in the field of maternal and child health, nutrition, clean water, and sanitation. It provides help to children and mothers in emergencies arising from natural calamities, civil strifes, and epidemics. It speaks on behalf of children and upholds the Convention on the Rights of the Children. With this, I conclude my today's video. Thank you for watching till the end. Keep watching, sharing, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.